Cool. So that is Eligium. We announced that I think last week before GamesCom and released that trailer on Monday. We also have announced the release date, which is Q1 2012. So it's coming very soon. The beta will be. The closed beta will be starting towards the end of this year, and the open beta shortly after it. Before we do a run through of the game, I'll give you a little overview about where the game is going to be going, etc., etc. Eligium is obviously going to be published by Frogster, and we have the rights to the North American and European markets. So it will be launched there early next year. And the languages available at the moment are German, English, French and Polish. It's developed by Shanda Games in China. Some of the team have been responsible for games like Ion and Ragnarok beforehand. So we're really looking forward for the game coming out. We think it's going to be a big success when it launches next year. What we're going to do today is Lee's going to give us a run through in the game itself. We're going to talk a little bit about the opening part of the game, the character selection screen, have a look at the game and a few of its core features. So Lee's going to log in now, and while he's doing that, I'll give you a quick overview of the story in Eligium. Many years ago, the humans had their own continent, and it was invaded by a demon army. And at the time, the humans were divided into two factions, and they couldn't quite fight them off because they were divided. So they had to flee, find a new continent, and on this new continent, they found the races that we have on the screen at the moment. Now they made alliances with these races, but unfortunately, the humans split up again into two separate factions. They kept fighting. And this is the factions you'll choose in the game, which ties into the faction wars, which is a big feature. The two factions are called the Kingdom of Holy Light and the Empire of Glory. And we'll see those in a second appear on the screen. We've got a lovely panda there. So there we go. On the right-hand side, we can see the two factions. Haven't quite been localized yet. That's what we're doing at the moment at Frogster, is localizing the game, adapting it for the Western market. And here we go. Lee's going to take us through just a little bit of information about the characters, and I'll hold the mic in front of you, Lee.
So there are 4 races and 5 classes in Eligium. And there's going to be a class and race restriction. So for instance, the humans can play the warriors and the mages. The elves are playing the hunter. The druid is played by the sylvias. And lastly, the pandas are playing the fighter class. So each class is going to be able to specialize at level 15 and 40 to go down a different path. So with the warrior, they can go down a damage dealing route, or they can go down a tank route. The mage can go down ice or fire with different spells and different effects with that. The hunter specializes in traps or more stealthy aspects, so really high physical damage, getting in and getting out. The druid, as you can see, has a very interesting transformation. So they have a new skill set and skills that can only be used whilst they're in their transformed form. But they're also very good healers. So they can heal, but once the party is fully healed and the healing isn't needed anymore, they can transform and start dealing some damage. Or they can also obtain a pet, like we'll see here, like this guy. Pretty big. And lastly, we've got our fighter class. Really cool is this was originally going to be a elite class, so something that was unlocked after your first playthrough, but now we're going to open it up from the beginning so players can play this straight away. And just over here,
sorry, we have the virtues. So yeah, the panda class. Pandas are quite popular at the moment. World of Warcraft just announced they have pandas. Terra have the Piporis, which aren't quite pandas but look quite similar to pandas. So I'm not sure what's going on exactly, but pandas seem to be quite popular at the moment. You just mentioned the virtues in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. The names you see on the screen at the moment aren't finalized localization-wise, so they're not the final names. But how they work is, in the character creation menu, you can choose them, and they give you a certain buff in the game. So depending on what you choose, it will be a different buff. The cool thing about that is that in dungeons, if you're in a group of 5 people, certain combinations of virtues will give the whole group a buff. So it's really cool. Players will have to mix and match in the game, see what buffs they get in return. So it's a little bit of an added bonus. And yeah, if certain players have chosen a certain buff, then they'll have to switch around and they can see what they get in return. So that's the character creation menu, and Lee is going to jump straight into the game. Magic World Online 2 is the old name for the game. It's the original branding. Frogster is developing it as a standalone title, so although we have 2 in the original title, the lore, the stuff we're localizing will be for a standalone game and will have no connection to the original. So Lee is proudly showing off his panda character and his mount in the game, and he's going to give us a quick run through of the map feature, which is really cool.
So as you can see, this is the basic city map. We're in the city of Sanctia, which is one of the capitals for one of the factions. So it's going to play a big part in the storyline for both factions, in fact. As you can see, I just auto-routed there. This is a pretty nifty feature. There's lots of NPCs, lots of merchants. You just find them on the map, double-click, and you're going to be transporting yourself there automatically. And just to give you a size of the scale of the game, this is the area we are in currently, Kalianor, and this is the world map. And we're just this tiny little speck just here. So it just goes to show that the scale of the game is pretty big, and this is going to be opened up from the beginning for everybody. So there's not going to be anything locked or to unlock later on. Everything's going to be open from the beginning. And something pretty cool, this island here is in the shape of a dragon. That took us a few days to figure out. Right, so we are out our NPC here, and he's going to just give us a quick run through of this city in terms of lore and history, with a nice little cinematic here.
Yep, so as we're going through, there's going to be a little bit more of detailed lore appearing on the screen. Now, players can choose if they want to follow this more detailed lore or just play through the game perhaps as a PvP. Would be their top priority for the game. They can do that in Eligium. And of course, there'll be main story quests as well, where they can follow the lore a little bit more closely. As we're watching the video, I'll kind of sum up what Eligium, what makes Eligium stand apart from other MMOs. Eligium is a little bit of a feature monster. If players have a favorite feature from another MMO, the chances are it will be in Eligium as well. The PvP is crazy in Eligium. There's so many PvP features. It's Guild Wars, Faction Wars, Siege Wars, every kind of PvP feature you can imagine at the moment. And they all have a lot of content in them. I'll go into a little bit more detail later on. As we're watching what's coming up on the screen, I'll briefly mention the game is in alpha, in its alpha stage at the moment. So this pop-up you're seeing on the screen, it'll be worked on before release, so it won't be quite as substantial as it is at the moment. But yep. That's our little run through of the map, and this is just one of the major cities in the game. And as we saw before, where Lee mentioned the world map, there'll be plenty of major cities in the game, and each will have its own fly-through for players to kind of get to grips with where things are in the city, where the NPCs are, and things like that. In terms of size, we had a look at the world map before, and by double-clicking, you can do that anywhere in the game, so it's not just in a city. And the auto-route feature, we really like it because for certain quests, if you have to go to a certain NPC to get an item to continue, it can be really annoying. I've played MMOs before where you have to find one NPC in a huge city and you end up spending 20 minutes trying to find this one guy. And I like that you can just auto-route straight to him, so you save a little bit of time. It's just kind of a handy feature to have in the game. So Lee has navigated to the outskirts of the city, showing off his mount. I'll just quickly run through a few of the features we're going to talk about today. The first is a ranking feature in the game.